With the latest entry in Playground Games' open-world racing series comes an electric enthusiasm. And as anyone who has seen our prior video discussing the game's features can attest, there's good reason to be excited about Forza Horizon 5. From its vast and varied open world to the diverse collection of cars driving around it, this automotive excursion through Mexico promises to be the most exciting Horizon yet. However, while there are many new details and features whetting our appetite for Horizon Mexico, many old obstacles that are either likely to return or explicitly confirmed by the developers leave something of a sour taste, representing persistent failings in an otherwise fantastic franchise. With that, here are the 5 things we hate about Forza Horizon 5 and the Horizon series as a whole.
What, you don't have enough credits? So treat yourself to a car token or two. You know, you really need that car you've been drooling over.
As anyone who pays attention to the video game industry well knows, excessive monetization in full-priced AAA games is as ubiquitous as it is egregious. And while many publishers and series are rightly taken to task for their post-purchase swindling, the same cannot be said of the Forza franchise. While publishers like EA and Activision have constantly found themselves in critical crosshairs for profiteering from loot boxes, Forza has managed to avoid accountability despite being on the ground floor of monetized gaming. While it is undoubtedly the most universally beloved entry in the mainline series, Forza Motorsport 4 was also the first Forza to include microtransactions in the form of a secondary currency that could be purchased with real money, and in doing so, it became one of the first full-priced games to include microtransactions in modern history. To put into perspective just how prematurely the franchise pushed in-game monetization, Forza Motorsport 4 was released a month before both Skyrim and Minecraft. And in the decades since, the Motorsport series has compounded its post-purchase premium economy with everything from loot boxes to content carving.
What's more troubling is the absolutely underhanded use of DLC in the car selection. Several of the most popular cars have been cherry-picked and held for ransom behind paywalls, and in cases like the Bugatti Veyron and Ford Raptor, you can't even buy them individually. You have to purchase a $20 car pack.
Though monetization may have been introduced in Motorsport, it has since been normalized in Forza Horizon. And while each Horizon game arguably represents a complete experience without any further financial investment, the entire open-world series is nonetheless relentless in its pursuit of profit. Starting with the very first game in 2012, every single entry in the Horizon series has included various forms of avaricious swindling, including premium currency, premium progression unlocks, day 1 DLC, pre-order bonuses, multiple retailer-exclusive pre-order bonuses, multiple season passes, multiple special editions, season passes not included in special editions, and DLC not included in either season passes or special editions.
For the love of God!
Mercifully, microtransactions like loot boxes are one of the few forms of post-purchase payment not included in prior Horizon games. However, while they are unlikely to be included in Playground's latest racer, the industry-wide normalization of patching in monetization like loot boxes after launch represents an unsettling, if unlikely, possibility for Horizon 5, especially considering just how enthusiastically the Horizon series has embraced features that are eerily similar to slot machines in prior games. Regardless of whether or not loot boxes find their way to Mexico, Forza Horizon 5 has already been confirmed to have much of the same monetization as its predecessors. And much like in prior games where DLC and expansions were aggressively advertised in menus and on loading screens, players will likely experience a large amount of in-game upselling interrupting their Latin American adventure. Unfortunately, this is unlikely to be the only type of intrusion experienced in Horizon 5. From the helmet-based heads-up display in Halo to the phosphor screen data gauges in Fallout, a good user interface acts as both a functional utility and as an artistic reflection of the game for which it's used, the combination of which facilitating both a productive and satisfying player experience. That said, even the best UI can distract from the player's enjoyment of a game, and while the barely contained fury of skill chain notifications in Horizon may enhance the experience of hooning around a wheat field, it can also grow tiring when the player simply wants to take in the beauty of the open world. Fortunately, like any good user interface, the Horizon series provides players with the ability to individually enable or disable specific heads-up display elements in the game, allowing players to custom tailor the driving experience to their liking. With everything turned off, the player is able to indulge in a truly immersive automotive experience, allowing them to enjoy the present moment of cruising down a desert road or take in the view from the highest peak, only to have the vast landscape obscured by a waypoint marker. Unfortunately, while the options menu allows players to disable a large number of interface elements, it does not allow players to disable all of them, and those that remain often represent a major intrusion on the gameplay experience. All too often, an event notification will blight the view of the roadway ahead, and unless the player drives through said notification above a certain speed, it will go on to cover approximately a third of the screen. Not only will speed zones interrupt a casual cruise with a jarring camera flash and a shuddering sound effect, but whatever music the player may have been listening to will be muffled for the entirety of the zone itself. These issues have only gotten worse as the series has increasingly resembled a live service, with Forza Horizon 4 persistently pressuring players with an incessant reminder to join a multiplayer session, coupled with a ticking countdown seemingly designed to psychologically pressure players into going online. Considering this continued emphasis on online play and the presence of always-on notifications in every predecessor, Forza Horizon 5 is virtually guaranteed to maintain these inflexible interface elements, especially when accounting for the increased emphasis on social interaction in Horizon Mexico. Sadly, a specific gameplay mode that would allow for an absent interface is incredibly unlikely. Interface intrusions aside, the open worlds present in Horizon games represent a uniquely liberating experience. From the beginning, the Horizon series has always provided gorgeous environments worth exploring, both for the scenic views and the engaging roadways that lead towards them. With both the largest and most diverse map in Horizon history, Forza Horizon 5 is set to provide the most explorable automotive world so far in the series. That said, it's also set to have the same frustrations that have plagued the series since day one. Aside from the aforementioned user interface issues, another persistent problem was put into sharp focus during one of the official developer streams of Horizon 5. Like all its predecessors before it, Forza Horizon 5 will have NPC traffic and drivatars occupying the open world. And just like those predecessors, Horizon 5 will likely provide no way of turning these aggravating AI off. While NPC traffic and drivatars can provide engaging driving scenarios in the open world, they are just as often hindrances that actively interfere with a player's ability to simply enjoy the game. Forza Horizon 4 enabled a transparency mode for speed zones and drift zones, allowing players to drive through these sections without having to worry about AI interrupting their feats of skill, but this feature represents a mediocre stopgap that fails to address the root problem, as the same AI would be waiting for the player once they left that specific section of roadway. The high likelihood that these issues will return highlights the desperate need for a legitimate Freeplay mode in Horizon 5. In EA's Skate franchise, the Freeplay mode allowed players to toggle the presence of pedestrians, traffic, other skateboarders, and even allowed players to adjust the density of both pedestrians and traffic in the open world. In Horizon 5, such a system would permit players to create bespoke driving scenarios with however many or few NPC traffic vehicles they would want. Furthermore, considering the rhythmic and relentless nature of season changes in Horizon 4, adding a free play mode with adjustable seasons, weather, and time of day in Horizon 5 would ensure that no player would find themselves in the unfortunate scenario of waiting 3 weeks of real-world time just to drift their aerial nomad through the snow in a video game. Sadly, after 4 games and almost a decade of waiting for such an adjustable Freeplay mode in this series, Playground Games has yet to announce any such feature in Horizon 5, making it unlikely to appear at all. That said, an adjustable Freeplay mode is far from the only conspicuous absence in either Horizon 5 or the series at large. From the 2013 Dodge Viper to the Lamborghini Centenario, the Horizon series has sought to bring the latest and greatest vehicles to each respective entry. As demonstrated by footage of the new Land Rover Defender and Porsche Taycan in the E3 reveal trailer, Forza Horizon 5 is putting a special significance on ultra-modern machines, from retro off-roaders like the Ford Bronco to road-going racers like the Mercedes-AMG Project 1. That said, while the inclusion of Aston Martin Valhallas and McLaren GTs is a welcome one, the increased emphasis on the cars of today highlights a series-long neglect for those from yesterday. A carryover from its motorsport sister series, Horizon games, despite providing eclectic and well-rounded car lists, have always had noticeable gaps in their automotive lineups, either as the result of not digitally recreating those vehicles or by failing to bring them over from the motorsport games. While it may make sense from a cynical marketing perspective to prioritize the most recent motors over those from 10 or 15 years ago, the absence of automobiles from the 2000s and 20th century is nonetheless a disappointing one, especially considering how the increased variety provided by these cars could enhance the Horizon experience. While the Ferrari Enzo and the Porsche Carrera GT account for millennial supercars in the Horizon series, obvious picks for this performance division like the Pagani Zonda F and the Lamborghini Murcielago LP640 are conspicuously omitted from the roster. 60s racing icons like the Ford GT40 and the Shelby Daytona Coupe are available in every Horizon entry, but comparable deep cuts like the Jaguar XJ13 still have yet to make an appearance after almost a decade. Though the inability to secure the licenses of cars like the Mercedes McLaren SLR or source data necessary to accurately recreate more elusive vehicles are valid reasons for some automotive absences, these excuses don't apply to the cars Playground Games could essentially port from Motorsport to Horizon. Instead, these cars are likely withheld due to greed. Considering the financial significance of the Forza franchise, the Horizon series represents a massive cash cow for Microsoft, and as such, it's a series that the software megacorporation is more than happy to milk for as long as possible. After all, from a cynical marketing perspective, it makes more sense to drip feed these cars out over the course of several games and several expansions than it does to care about the customer experience. And on that note, while the avaricious motivations behind premium currency and staggered content in Horizon games are both shameless and cynical, they are, if nothing else, easily comprehensible motivations. Far less obvious are the more miserly motivations behind the content that's provided for free. In 2016, Forza Horizon 3 became the first entry in the series to implement a concept from the motorsport games called unicorn cars. Renamed Forzathon cars, these vehicles were added via free updates to the game but never made available via the auto show, instead added to the player's garage after completing specific weekly challenges. While the time-limited availability of these autos was incredibly disappointing, the unannounced complimentary addition of these 20-plus cars was nonetheless a nice little bonus for the players enjoying Horizon 3. That said, this benign inclusion would turn malignant in Forza Horizon 4. Rebranded again as seasonal reward cars, what began as an unannounced extra consisting of just over 20 cars mutated into a critical gameplay component withholding well over 100 different vehicles. And withholding really is the operative word. Unlike its forerunner, Forza Horizon 4 went out of its way to carve out over 24 cars from the base version of its predecessor, including the Camaro IROC-Z and the Mazda Cosmo, just to hold them hostage behind weekly challenges. Exacerbating this sleazy situation was the fact that these weekly challenges required a far greater personal investment than before, transforming what could have been a fun concept for unlocking new cars into a tedious time sink needed to salvage vehicles stripped from the game. Depressingly, this is only set to get worse in Horizon 5. Not only has Playground Games confirmed that the seasonal reward system will return in Horizon 5, but over 40 cars have apparently been cut from the base game. The list of casualties includes fan favorites like the Porsche 718, the Mercedes-Benz SL65 Black Series, the 2012 Pagani Huayra, and the road-going version of the Maserati MC12, all likely withheld behind the drudgery of the seasonal reward system. At face value, the decision to not just retain such a clearly flawed content delivery system, but to deliberately worsen its implementation is a baffling one. However, when put into the context of factors like the series' history of excessive monetization and the recent push for online multiplayer as the default way to play, the motivation behind this decision comes into sharp focus. The time-sensitive drip feed of new cars in Horizon 4 elicits the same fear of missing out, or FOMO, response as the battle passes and rotating storefronts in games like Fortnite, using artificial scarcity to coerce people to play whether they actually want to or not. The updates that add these seasonal reward cars, along with the challenges that unlock them, require the internet for access, encouraging an always online connection during normal gameplay. Couple this with the aforementioned fact that microtransactions like a la carte items and loot boxes remain one of the few forms of monetization untouched by the series so far, and it's hard to shake the notion that Microsoft is trying to groom Horizon players to embrace an always online live service model in the future, especially considering that Horizon 5's store page still hasn't included a single-player mode on its feature list. While we remain confident that Forza Horizon 5 will be fantastic fun, the persistence of artificial scarcity is nonetheless an indictment of the Horizon series and its future, as the games that we used to play are slowly but surely transforming into games that play us. Well, there you have it. Those are the 5 things we hate about Forza Horizon 5 and its predecessors. Have any personal gripes of your own with the Horizon series? From lackluster visual customization to issues in multiplayer, there are certainly a lot more issues with the Horizon series, and we'd love to hear about them in the comments. Be sure to drop us a like, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell to see more videos like this one from the classiest cavern on the World Wide Web.